Hi guys, in this video, Dr. Kwaku Boakye is going to tell us about his difficult journey to the US, his visa interview during the COVID pandemic, his current job on OPT, his family in the US, and how he switched his wife from F2 visa to F1 visa while in the US. Consider subscribing to the channel if you are new here, and also consider giving the video a like and sharing the video with your friends. These things help the channel in big ways and will enable me to bring you more of such contents. Alright, let's get started. Hi, Dr. Boakye. Welcome to my channel, and I'm very excited to have you. How is the family and how is everything?
By God's grace, we are all fine. Thank you. Hope you are fine too.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks very much. So, what prompted you to decide to do your doctorate degree in the US, and what was the process like for you?
I think after my bachelor's degree, I wanted to come to the US, and I spoke to people like you whilst you were in the US, but it was unfortunate at that time I didn't get any funding, so I decided to do my master's in Ghana and then stay back, organize myself, and then retry again. So it
Wow.
was after my master's that I decided to give it a try again, and then this time it worked.
So when did you finish your master's in Ghana?
I finished my master's in Ghana in 2017, but my graduation was, I think, somewhere around 2020.
So you got admission, but you didn't get funding, right? That's what you meant, right?
Yes.
Okay. So when you started again in 2020, you got admission, but this time you got funding, right?
Yes. I think I got admissions to. I actually applied to 4 different schools, 3 PhDs, and then it was 5 applications altogether.
Okay.
3 PhDs and then 2 master's degrees, but 2 were in the same school and in the same department. So
Okay.
all of that, I got admissions to all of the program, and I got 3 different fundings.
Okay. Can you tell me
Yeah,
about
so
that?
I had to. Yeah, so I got my first admission was with the University of Southern Mississippi to their master's degree in economic development.
Okay.
There I got 2 different fundings. One was an individual funding from a professor who is working on agricultural value chain, and that was my research area in my master's degree. So
Oh,
he
okay.
wanted to work with me, and also the
Yeah.
department also offered me graduate assistantship. So, and I think few days after, I also had my funding from New Mexico State University, and also another one from University of Idaho into their PhD in water management and policy.
So you decided to go with the New Mexico State, right?
Yes.
Why did you choose that one?
Well, I decided to choose that one because the funding was good one, and per my checks, the living conditions in Las Cruces, New Mexico, was also good too.
Yeah.
And I also considered my options of getting visa and going to New Mexico State, which has less people. The options of getting your visa approved was also very high. And quite apart from that, the program is also unique in a sense that we have PhDs in economics that specialize in economic development. Like there's that specialization when you opt for a PhD in economics in the US. But I think New Mexico State is one of the few schools that has a doctorate degree specifically for economic development.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So did you take the GRE?
Yes, I did, but here at New Mexico State, it didn't really count.
Oh, okay. I see. So, if I remember correctly, you had your visa interview during the COVID-19 pandemic, right?
Yes.
And I remember at the time, a lot of people started going to other countries for their visa interviews. What about you? Did you have your interview in Ghana or in another country?
No, I did my interview in Ghana, but my family had to go to Cote d'Ivoire. That we will talk about that
Okay.
when
Okay.
you
Yeah, I will
but
ask you
I
about
did
that. Yeah.
mine in Ghana. Yes. So I
So,
think at the time, okay, please go ahead.
go on.
At the time, I was waiting for a date to go for my visa interview, actually, I met someone who also was looking for a date. So he prompted me that uh, I had already booked my appointment, and then the date was somewhere around 2026. And he prompted me that there's the option to request for emergency processing.
Yeah.
And then I think that was the time that emergency option had come.
Mm.
So when you put in your application, you send all your necessary documents, and then they didn't give us the option that time to choose a date like it is now.
Mm.
At the time, when you send your application and it is approved, they would give you a date that
Oh, okay.
your application for emergency processing has been approved, and your new interview date is this.
Oh, wow. I see.
Yes, unlike now that you have to go look for a date yourself. At the
Yeah.
time, they would approve and then give you a new date.
Oh.
Yeah, so that is how it was.
Oh. So, at the time you were married, did you go for the interview
Yes,
alone or did you go with your family?
I went alone.
Okay. Why did you go alone? Because you could have actually, brought your family along.
Yeah, I had two reasons.
Mm.
My first reason is that it was at the time COVID was going out,
Yeah.
and then we didn't know our chances going
Yeah.
into the interview.
That's true. Yeah.
And at that time too, my wife was heavily pregnant, so we didn't want to take our chances. We
Yeah.
wanted to at least I take the lead, and then she'll follow
Yeah.
suit. And also, due to the fact that we didn't know the conditions that was awaiting us in the US,
Yeah.
I
That makes
wanted to
sense.
come
Yeah.
and then set the grounds
Yeah.
before she would come join me.
Yeah.
So these are the two reasons why I didn't go with her.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And actually, when people approach me about questions like that, I tell them it's better to go alone. And then when you get the visa, then the other person can also apply for the visa. I mean, I feel like that's actually better. And your reasons are actually on point. So yeah, that's good. So you went for the interview the first time and you were approved, right?
Yes.
How did you prepare for your interview?
I think at the time I was talking to you.
Oh,
If you
really?
remember, you were one of the people I was talking
Oh,
to a lot in my process since
oh.
2016 when I graduated from
Wow.
UCC. You were one of the people I've been talking to, and I remember when I didn't know how to pay application fee, I approached you and said, "Oh, you are willing to pay the first one for me for free, and
Oh,
the
wow.
rest you take your money." So
Oh, wow.
that is a
That's
story for another day. But
Oh, wow.
so I was still talking to you back in 2020, and you sent me a lot of videos from your YouTube, and then we also had one-on-one talk. You
Oh,
guided
okay.
me on some of the things I should say and some of the things I should not say, and I think that really helped a lot. And quite apart from that, my supervisor also at UCC also guided me. I also had one-on-one sessions. I think 2 different sessions with him, and then he also
Wow.
helped fine-tune some of the answers I had. So
Oh, wow.
I think
That's
you were
good.
the two people who really helped
So
with
your
my interview
supervisor,
preparation.
your supervisor, you mean your supervisor at New Mexico or in Ghana?
No, in Ghana,
Oh,
UCC.
okay. Oh, okay. Who is that?
He's the current dean for School of Agriculture, and his name is Professor Henry de Graaf Aqua.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
he's really
good.
a nice guy. And then if you work with him as a TA or research assistant, he helps you get your schools, get
Oh,
your
wow.
applications, and before you send every application out, he makes sure he looks through it before you send it out. And apart from that, when you are preparing for your interview, he also helps you. Every single email you send out to your professor, he makes sure he reads it before you send it out. So that's how helpful he is.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is actually very rare because I mean, I know Ghanaian professors and they don't really have time for students. So yeah, that's actually nice one. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware that there are actually professors who are so much interested in the people they work with. I mean, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
right? I had
Yes, I
bosses,
know.
and they
Yeah.
help they submitted recommendation letters for me and all of that, but for them to be so keen on you traveling abroad, like guide you through the process, nah, they wouldn't they wouldn't have time for all of that.
Yeah, he
So
has that time, and that's why even some of his colleagues will send their family members to come work with him as his TS, just so they
wow,
can get the opportunity to
benefits,
also
yeah,
travel. You know?
oh
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, and these days a lot of people go for the interview and they are denied and all of that. Based on your experiences, what can you tell them? What advice will you offer to those people?
I think one of the key things I took from my interview is the fact that when you go for the interview, you have to be real.
Mm.
You have to be real. If you are just real and then you answer every question truthfully,
Yeah.
you will not get denied. Except that you are trying to conjure some documents or conjure some information, and for that matter, you try to memorize some things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes you prepare yourself for your interview and then you go, they will not even ask you questions about that. For example, when I went, my interview did not really, the real interview did not really last for long. When I went, I think he asked me about 5 questions. And at the time, I was about the 9th or 10th person. And then he had denied everybody after me.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
Wow.
went with one guy from UCC,
Man.
and then actually I was sitting in front and the guy was
Mm.
sitting next to me. So
Okay.
ideally, I was supposed to go to the woman, and then the guy is supposed to go to the man. But because we were all afraid, when the woman called next, that guy just jumped and then he walked to the woman.
Oh wow.
So I
Oh
was sitting there
man.
waiting for him to finish, and then so I can still go to the woman, and
Yeah.
the guy called next. So when he called
Wow.
me, all I said is that what
Man.
will happen today.
Or die be die.
Yeah, so I went to the guy, and then he he's like, "Can I have your transcript, um, your
Passport and
I-20 and
I-20.
your passport?" I gave it to him, and he said, "Have you traveled before?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Where did you go?" I said, "I attended a conference in Kenya." And he said, "How long did you take?" I told him, and then he said, "Did you come back?" I said, "Yes, I came back on time."
Yeah.
So after that, he said, "Can I have your transcript?" So I asked him, "Which of the transcript do you need?" He said, "My bachelor's or my master's." He said, "Both." I gave it to him, and then I think his attention was on the master's transcript. He asked me, "So you worked on agricultural value chain. Did you tell me about your research?" So I started talking because I did my work myself and
Yeah.
I knew
That's
what was in my work.
exactly.
I started lamenting. I talked. So upon talking for some time, about a
Yeah.
minute, I was still rapping him, and he told me that okay, your visa is approved.
Oh
So
wow.
after he said
Nice.
your visa is approved, then he's like, "But your project was funded, right?" I said, "Yeah." So the rest of it was just personal chat I had with him,
Oh
and he
wow.
said, "Oh, is it allowed that on the project we have additional funding from different sources?" I said, "Oh yes, it's allowed." Then he took a pen and a paper. Then he put some other funding sources. I think he pointed on one of them. He emphasized on one of them that they are really interested in what we were working on at the time. So when we apply and then they ask us who referred us, I should just write his name, and they also added his name to the banner of that. So the rest of the interview was just chatting about research and funding and all of that.
Oh wow.
And then when he finished, he said, "But you are leaving. So what happens to the project?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll be working remotely." And I mean, that is it. It
Wow.
was just snappy.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So when did you arrive in the US?
I arrived on January 13,
Mm.
2021.
But your program was supposed to start in fall 2020, right?
Yeah, so my school, in my school, during the
Mm.
time of COVID,
Yeah.
I think I know some schools were allowed, people in some schools were allowed to defer their programs and all of that.
Mm.
In my school, there's no exception. You can defer your program, but at my department at New Mexico State University, what they said is that you're allowed to defer your program, but the funding they cannot defer for you.
Wow.
Yeah, so you cannot defer your funding, but you can defer your program. So if you want them to keep the funding for you, then you have
Yeah.
to register for classes.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had to register for classes. But what the university did for us was they allowed us to pay institution instead of at the time paying out of state tuition, because they assumed that we were still graduate assistants and then we are working for them even though we're not in the US and we're not working.
Wow.
So the only thing is that we're not paid, but we're paying institution like every other graduate assistant was doing.
Mm.
I mean, I think that was really helpful. So
Oh,
that
okay.
way they kept the funding for us until we got to the US.
So which means you studied online, right?
Yes, I took 2 classes online for 2020, and that was very
Wow.
difficult. It was a difficult time because I was still in Ghana, and then the time difference was 6 hours, and at the point it was 7 hours. So
Wow. And
yes,
what about internet? Did you have internet issues?
no
Mm.
internet issue. Internet was not an issue at the time because my boss gave me an office at UCC where I was
Mm.
doing my
Wow.
classes and then doing everything. So I was always in that office. But
Mm.
sometimes because of family responsibilities, I have to come take my class at home because that'll be around 11 p.m. in Ghana and I'll still have classes. So I'll have to come home. And I mean,
Mm.
one thing I will never forget is when I was inside class, my wife was pregnant. She was craving for something. I needed to leave the class, end the class, and then go buy it for her. But they
Wow.
said if I would not go buy for her, she would just go out and buy it herself. And
Thanks we do for
okay.
love. Charlie, wow, that's good. And so you came and then you prepared the way for your wife, right? And so
Yes,
she came with your daughter, right?
yes.
They went for the interview. So how was the interview like for her and your daughter? Like the F2,
Yeah,
visa process.
for them, it was very straightforward. But
Mm.
before you get your F2, I-20, and all of that, you first need to write to your international office, and then they'll request some documents, which of
Yeah.
them include the person's passport, their your marriage certificate, um, um, your bank statement for proving that you'll be able to take care of
Yeah.
your family when they arrive in the US and all
Mm.
of that. So
Yeah.
after I sent all of those documents to them, they sent me the I-20, and then based on that, I was able to fill out the DS-160 form and then apply for the lesson for them. So
Mm.
when I applied in Ghana, I first applied to the embassy in Ghana, and the date was I think 1 year and so after the time, and I couldn't wait. So somebody introduced to me that Cote d'Ivoire is also good, and they
Mm.
can equally attend their interview in Cote d'Ivoire. So they linked that person linked me to someone who
Mm.
just finished her interview in Cote d'Ivoire and got approved. And her case
Oh
was
wow.
the same as mine because she also had a daughter, a son
Mm.
that have not seen the father before and all of that. So I think we had a similar story.
Oh
And they
wow.
applied for emergency and they got approved in Cote d'Ivoire. So I also
Mm.
said, let me try my chances. So quickly I had to transfer to Cote d'Ivoire, get someone to pay the IRB
MRV.
fee again.
Mm.
And then I did everything. I scheduled the appointment and I applied for emergency. And so they approved. But when
Oh
they
wow.
approved, it was still like 6 months ahead.
Mm.
So, but it was faster than that of Ghana. So
Mm.
in February 2022 was when they arrived in the US. I think February 15th or 14th, or
Mm.
somewhere around that.
And how much did you have to show as a proof of funds for them? Like on the I-20, how much did you have to show?
Um, what I know is that it differs by school, but here at
Mm.
New Mexico State, I think for my wife it was 4,000, and then my
Mm.
daughter was 2,500.
Mm. Oh, okay. Wow.
Yes,
So,
so together was I think 6,500.
oh wow. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, I was thinking it would be a lot because insurance alone, in some places is a lot.
Yeah. So like I said,
Mm.
it depends, and the insurance my school recommends we buy for our dependents is quite cheap.
Mm. So
Yeah.
did you like buy marketplace insurance or you went with the school insurance?
No, I went with the school's insurance.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's good to know. And finally, your wife and your daughter joined up with you. So how was it like? How was the feeling like?
Oh,
Finally seeing your daughter.
it was good. Like, you
Yeah,
know, uh, the feeling that I will not have to stay awake to talk to them in the morning, and then
yeah,
you have to wake up in the middle of the night just so you can talk to them and all of that. And the fact that I can always go and then come back home and then meet people in the house
yeah, yeah,
alone was enough for me to rejoice. And I
yeah.
mean, it was a happy moment. Since
Mm,
then, we have been one big happy family. We,
yeah, that's good.
yeah, even though sometimes we get separated here and there, but I mean, it's okay.
Because of work, right?
Yes.
Oh wow, I see. And so your wife came on F2, right? And then at
Yes,
some point you decided to switch her to F1, right? How was it like?
yes.
How was the process? And did you do it by yourself, or you got help from elsewhere?
Yeah, so when my wife came, we decided that she go to school. So
Mm,
we had two options. Either she study on F2, which is going to be either part-time or full-time, and then either she switch to F1, which is going to allow her to get F1 status and also be able to work on campus. So we
mm,
chose the latter.
mm,
So after careful consideration, she started
yeah.
a class while still on F2. And uh, we had to apply for her F1 status. So if you want to apply, I think there are two options. Either you get your I-20, you go out of the US, go for an interview, and then come back to the
Mm,
US, or
yeah.
you stay here and then change your status in the US
Mm,
through the USCIS.
mm.
But going to Ghana, attending an interview, and then coming back was a long, and it's going to be costly and all of that.
Yeah.
So we chose this one, which is the preferred one.
Mm,
So what we had to do is that you have to apply for an I-20. The I-20 you apply when you're on F2 is an I-20 for change of status.
mm,
So the school will give you an I-20, and then you see on every I-20 they either write either you are initial attendance,
yeah.
continuing, or whatever. So this
Yeah.
one is I-20 for change of status
Oh,
within the
okay.
US.
Mm,
Yeah. So when you get your I-20, you have to gather your documents, and then if you go to USCI's website, you create an account. And yes, I did it myself. I did
mm.
everything
Wow.
myself from scratch.
Wow.
So you go to USCI's website, you create an account for the person you are filling the form for.
Mm.
And then in the online forms, there's an option for change of status.
Okay.
And please, you see, there's difference between change of status and then adjustment of status. So this is not adjustment of status, this is just change of
Yeah.
status. So you are
Yeah.
changing your status from one immigrant visa to another
Mm.
non-immigrant visa to another non-immigrant visa.
Yeah.
Yes, and this with this form, you can change your status to any non-immigrant visa. So, for example, if you
Mm.
are F1 and then you want to go to F2, if you are H1B and then you want to go to
Oh,
F2,
wow.
or you are on F2, you want to go to
Mm.
H1B, like whichever non-immigrant visa,
Wow.
you use the same form. So you go there, you create the account, you fill out the form, and then you pay the required fee, which is I think $400 and something dollars,
That's a
and
lot.
then you submit your application. But it's much cheaper than
Yeah.
going to Ghana and then coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. Yeah.
so you submit your application and you wait on them. And before my wife's own, we had also did the same thing for a friend. So I think
Mm.
that was a learning process. That was a trial.
Mm.
So
Wow.
with that one, we got an RFE.
Mm.
So when we got the
What is an
RFE,
RFE?
I think a review of evidence.
Okay.
Yeah, so when we got that, we provided the further evidence they needed, and then in a week it got approved. So with my wife's case, we learned from that, and then when we submitted it, I think in a month and 2 weeks, she got approved
Oh,
without
wow.
any RFU or anything. Yes.
Mm. Wow. And so what is she studying now?
Um, she's right now in a nursing program, but when at the time we were applying for the F1, she was in a master's program at New Mexico State. But right now she switched her program to nursing.
Mm. Oh, wow. That's amazing. So your daughter, came with your wife, obviously, and
Yeah.
when she came, it means you had to look for a school for her. Was it difficult to get a good school for her? And how are
Oh
you
no,
able
not at
to,
all.
and how are you able to combine, your studies and then your wife's studies and also your daughter's school? Like, how are you able to take care of all of that?
Yeah. So what we do is that um, for my daughter, um, we were able to get a school for her. Just that the capacity of the schools and then the age of the child always determines whether there will be space or there will not be space. But as
Ah,
whether for the admission is very easy.
hmm.
So we have to identify a school that had space for her age bracket, because every school has number of classes for children, maybe from one below 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 2 to
Oh,
3 years.
okay.
that order. So if your child is say 2 years and you are going to look for school and they have just 2 classrooms for children of 2 years, and here they deal with the number. So if every classroom is supposed to take 10 students and they are up capacity, they will tell you to look out for the next school.
Oh.
They don't compromise on some of those things. So yeah, we located a school that was having space, and then we filled out the application form, and then she got admitted. But before she had to go to school, they have to make sure you submit a few documents, like they will make sure you take her for wellness check. Even though you have her wellness records, they have to take her for a doctor to sign the application form that she's fit to go to school. Her dentist, her optometrist, and everything will have to approve that the child is okay to go to school. So that is some of the difficulties. But I mean, she had been here for some time, and we had all of those things sorted out. We had doctors who were going to already, so it's just a matter of scheduling an appointment and then going to them. And when everything was done, submitted it, and then she had to start school. That was very easy. And taking care of that, I mean, sometimes I don't even know how I do it, because
it's a lot.
It's a lot, but we still did it anyways. And my wife has been very helpful. I will not deny that fact. I mean, she has also tried her best to help in any way she can. So it's a combined effort. It's not just my effort alone. It's something we do together. So when she has and I don't have, she brings it and we sort things out.
That's amazing. So you are currently working on OPT as an economist in a government institution, right?
Yes.
So how was the job application process like? And what is the job? What exactly do you do, like day to day?
So the job application, I mean, when I started, I remember I spoke to you before I started applying for jobs. I had to put together my documents, like prepare a good CV for myself, make sure I have my transcript and everything. But I think one of the challenges I had was the fact that, especially when I decided about not going into academia, one of the challenges I had was the fact that I didn't have any US education. So some of them, they will not tell you anything, and then after the interview, they will tell you that they have not picked you. But I think some of them, to one institution, actually opened my eye. And then what they told me is that before they will interview me, I should do evaluation of my transcript. And they were very patient. They waited for me. And that was the same bag. I mean, schools were on break and all of that. So getting my transcript to ETS to even do the evaluation was a problem. But they still waited for me until UCC resumed, and ETS got the transcript to evaluate and all of that. And finally, after I got it evaluated, that is what paved the way for me to get this job. Because on this job too, most of the US institutions, what they are looking at is your day of conferment, the day that you had your degree. And on UCC, I know Tech, they have it on their transcript. But UCC, we don't have it on our transcript. We only have the month of graduation, say March 2020 or something. We don't have the exact date. And that's the problem for most US institutions. So if you don't have a US degree, it becomes a problem. They want you to evaluate your transcript, and the evaluators have to put the day of your graduation on your transcript. Yeah, that was the most difficult part. Apart from that, everything was straightforward. I had a significant number of interviews, and I had a number of options. But at the end of the day, I had to make a choice. So right now, I work as an economist with the State of New Mexico Department of Transportation. And on a daily basis, one of the things I do is to monitor. We do revenue tracking of all the revenue streams, about 10 revenue streams that come to the department. So when we say Department of Transportation, then we are talking about revenues from vehicle registration, driver's license renewals, taxes from special fuel like diesel, taxes from petrol, and any other revenue sources that, like motor vehicle taxes and all of that, sales of motor vehicles, rental vehicles and all of them, like aviation tax and everything concerning transportation for the state.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So what we do is that when we get the data on monthly basis, we also do revenue forecasting. Say hello.
Hi, how are you?
Go to mommy.
You know, I didn't actually see her come to you because of the fact that, you know, I told you I was looking into the camera.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. How are you?
Yeah, go to mommy. Go to mommy. You are done. Go. Yes.
That's the thing about kids. They are so lovely.
Yeah.
They're so lovely.
So, every month we make sure that we provide the state with some revenue forecasting. So we have short-term forecast and a long-term forecast.
That's amazing.
Apart from that, we also work with other departments of a state to do general revenue forecasting for the entire state. So right now, in the month of, for the rest of July, I've been patching my wife. Please. Come back to now. So for the rest of July and then up to the middle of August, we are going to be doing forecasting for the states. And apart from that, we also do state forecast for like they call it national forecast. So we are going to present our forecast to the U.S. Department of Transportation and then the U.S. government and whatever. So on behalf of the state. And when we are done with that, we also do local government survey where we ask specific questions about local governance and then revenues and expenditures and all of that. And then based on that, we are able to forecast for them as well. So
yeah, that's amazing. So one thing that you mentioned a lot is forecasting. Did you have these skills before you were employed, or you had to learn them on the job?
I knew some, and then I had to learn some because with regards to forecasting, I knew that Stata can be used for forecasting. So I knew how to forecast with Stata. Yeah, because it's a time series data set we use all the time. I know you can use the ARIMA model in Stata to do a time series forecasting. But when I came, actually myself and my colleague were employed and we started work on the same day. So when we came, we realized that forecasting with Stata is now somehow out of date. So we started to use machine learning, like we started using Python. And so with Python, we had to build everything, all the models for all the revenue streams from scratch.
Oh, wow.
And thankfully, we have been able to build the template for all of the revenue streams. And this month, forecast, we are going to do our forecast presentation next week, Friday. And then all of our forecast results were from Python. Because if you compare the results, you could see that if you check the values we have on the tracker and the values that the forecast from Python is giving us, they are basically the same.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you talked about evaluating your transcripts, okay?
Yes.
But you came to the US to have a degree. Why wasn't that degree enough, and that you had to do a transcript
at the
evaluation?
time my degree had not been conferred yet, so
okay.
I didn't have my degree.
Okay.
And when they employ you based on which of your degrees has been awarded. I've been bachelor final command why. Sorry. So my degree has not been conferred yet, as I had not graduated. So they had to evaluate me based on the degree I've earned. And when I was coming to New Mexico State, they also didn't require transcript evaluation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this time I had to do a transcript evaluation, but this evaluation is not a course-by-course evaluation of your transcript. It's just a general evaluation, maybe with your CGPA or something. Yeah, so this one is just to tell them that your degree is equivalent to, maybe if it's a master's degree, it's equivalent to a master's degree in the US. And then this is the date you're conferred and all that. So it's pretty simple and straightforward.
That makes sense. And in your opinion, what do you think made you qualify for that job? Like, what did you do, to make you get a job? And what advice will you give to people who are applying for jobs in the US, like people on OPT?
I think what I did is that I took my time to prepare my CV well,
Mm,
and it was really very well organized.
mm,
And apart from that, I also made sure my cover letter
mm,
is detailed enough.
mm.
And that is what earned me a lot of interviews.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because in my cover letter, I made sure everything that was important was there.
Yeah. What are
Yeah,
some of the
because
important things?
unlike in Ghana, where when you're applying for a job, you just like, I'm happy to apply for this job in like 5 lines, then you are done, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this what I've realized is that in the US, when they are even advertising for the job, they said you submit your cover letter and your resume, and then your cover letter should have blah 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 blah. So all the skills you have, even though you have them on your CV, for example, if you take your experiences where you have worked, even though they are on your CV, but you have to also elaborate on them in your cover letter
Mm,
and what specific things you did
yeah.
at those jobs. They are very important.
Mm,
Yes, so I think that really my cover letter was very detailed enough. So, for example, if I take the fact that I was a research assistant at UCC, I would in my letter I would state that I did this, I collaborated with this person in this research, I have done that A, B, and C, and then
mm,
if you take it without even looking at my resume, you know that this person has blah 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 blah, blah
yeah,
skills. And
yeah.
then when saying I would, so if I say I helped a professor in doing a research, or if I analyze data for the department, I also include that I analyze data for this department using
Mm,
Stata or Python
yeah,
or that.
yeah.
So I made sure I had everything they had in there, such that it will not be difficult for someone to make a decision on my application.
Mm. Ah, that's amazing. What has surprised you about schooling in the US? Like when you compare with, where you come from, like Ghana and all of that. What has really surprised you?
Um, what really surprised me is the fact that learning here in the US is very different,
Mm,
because whatever you learn in class, the professor is able to relate it to real life situation just close
mm.
to you.
Oh, wow.
And the professors don't use examples from books to teach you.
Mm,
So, for example, my professor who taught me microeconomic analysis, microeconomic theory one, he is a water economist, and then he is a renowned water economist in the US who have done a lot of
wow.
projects as far as water economics
Mm,
is concerned. So
yeah.
every simple question he will give you, being it exam, homework, or whatever, is something from his research, is data that he has personally collected or worked on that he will give
Mm,
you.
okay.
So there are things you are able to relate to very easily.
Mm,
Unlike back in Ghana, where you would learn and then you don't know what they are even talking about. And when he gives you the data, he makes sure that you analyze the data with him in class. So for example, I finished my master's degree, I finished my bachelor's degree in Ghana without anybody necessarily teaching me any software, how to use anything. We have
yeah.
to learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
But here, if the professor is proficient in Stata, he makes sure throughout his class he uses Stata. So by the time you finish his class, you know how to do the basic things
Yeah.
from his class
Mm,
using that software.
mm,
If he's proficient in R, he makes sure he teaches you.
mm,
So, for example, in econometrics, every single topic we treated in econometrics here in the US, both econometrics 1 and 2, you use Stata. And then everything we do, we have to practice using Stata.
mm.
So at the end of the day, using Stata is not a problem for me. I'm able to just close my eyes and then that. But when I was in Ghana, even though I knew how to use Stata, some of the commands I didn't even remember them. But
Yeah.
now, like, because I'm using it every day in class, every day in my assignment, I'm able to remember a lot of the commands I
Mm,
use. And that has really helped me in my job.
yeah.
But that's the same thing I'm doing. That's basically the same thing. I'm writing codes every day, and that is really helping me. So I think that's a huge difference. Just
Yeah.
practicalizing what we study in class is the big difference.
That's amazing. I coach students who are praying for their visa interviews, and I one of the things I tell them about U.S. education is the fact that U.S. education is very practical, or it has a good blend between theoretical and practical knowledge, and that is exactly what you are saying. So yeah, that's actually amazing. So I'm going to ask you two questions. Two questions about kind of your life in general, and I just want to kind of know a little bit about that. So if I ask
Okay.
you what are you most proud of in your life, what will that be?
Oh, what I'm proud of right now, the
Yeah,
fact that I have I have a happy family.
yeah,
I have my doctorate degree, and then
mm,
I've been able to acquire a job for myself,
yeah.
and
That's amazing.
life is
Yeah,
okay for us, even though
yeah.
it's not better yet. It's
There's no
okay
perfect
for
life,
now.
so yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's good. So in the next 10
But what
years,
makes me happy is the fact that
mm,
I have a happy family. We are
yeah,
happy, and then after my degree, I've been able to get a
get a
job,
job.
and
Yeah,
life is going on.
yeah.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. Congrats. So in the next 10 years, where do you see yourself? I know
Well,
10 years is such a long time, but yeah.
uh, 10 years is not really long. In the next 10 years, what I see myself doing is the fact that I want to establish myself as an economist
Mm,
and self practice. So I want to uh, establish myself as an economist,
mm,
have my own consulting firm, and then
mm,
link myself with some of the international development agencies like
yeah.
World Bank and African Development Bank and what have you, because my specialization is economic development and I
Mm,
want to be a
yeah.
consultant
Mm,
to some of those development organizations so I can also give back to society.
mm, yeah. That's amazing. So what about publications? Do you think you'll be publishing a lot in the coming years? Or you're not really interested in
Yes,
that? Okay.
yes. I'm working on publishing a lot, and
Mm.
this year my target is 7.
Seven papers.
Yes, so far
Wow, that's amazing.
we have sent out. So far we've sent out 3 already. One of
Mm.
them is published.
Oh
One
wow,
was
congrats.
accepted early this month, so we are
Mm.
hoping that in the next few days it will
Yeah.
get published.
Wow.
And
Wow, that's
the other
amazing.
one is also under peer review,
Mm.
and we are finishing one before the end of this month
Oh wow.
to be sent out. So I think
uh,
myself and my team,
mm.
7 is okay for us. We are able to do it,
Yeah, that's
and that
amazing.
is what we have tasked ourselves to do in the
Mm.
next 5 years.
Yeah. So like you want to publish 7 papers every year, right?
Yes,
That's amazing. That's
and
amazing.
one thing that is also amazing when you have your doctorate degree,
Yeah.
what you can also what you have to do actually is the fact that you cannot do it alone. You have to get a team.
Yeah.
But apart from getting a team, you also have to mentor people. I
Yeah.
know you mentor people already,
Yeah.
but one of the areas you can mentor people is the fact that you teach them how to write papers,
Yeah.
mentor them how to analyze data, how to write a good paper for publication.
Yeah.
So after you mentor them, there will be a time that you will not necessarily have to be part of the publication, the writing process. They will just write, come and give it to you to look at it, and then they will add your name and then
Mm.
get their publication. So I
Yeah.
think that is one of the areas. If you are getting a PhD in the US, you should also be looking at what the publications are quite important, especially if you want to get your whatever your papers yourself.
Mm.
Then your publications will really count one day.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
if somebody wants to write a paper, what advice will you give to that person? I know this wasn't supposed to. I mean, I was almost done with asking you, but I just
Yeah.
thought I should ask this.
Um,
Yeah.
if you want to write a paper, what I tell people is the fact that if you really want to do publications, what I'll as the first thing you have to do is to get yourself a team.
Hmm.
Because in the field of
Where do you
research,
find the team? Where do you find the team?
so you look for people who have the same interests as you,
Hmm.
not necessarily from the same field.
Yeah.
So somebody might be in the area of, say, population and health. Somebody might be in the area of economics. Somebody will be in the area of different areas.
Yeah.
Come together, discuss what you want to do. Set targets for yourself. And collaboration is key. So when you discuss with these people, each one of you might have a topic in mind that they want to write on.
Yeah.
So once you have the topics and each one of you has something to bring on the table, it's very easy. You can use one man to just get a draft of a paper.
Yeah.
Because if you are 5 people working on it and you have your data and the data is analyzed, it's just a matter of sharing.
Yeah.
You are writing introduction, you are writing literature, you are writing the methods, you are writing the conclusion. You put everything together and you have the draft of the paper.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the first thing I think everybody should do is to get a team, because if you want to write, trust me, in a year you cannot write 2 papers and the year will end. But if you have a team, you can do a lot with the team.
Wow, that's a good advice. Yeah, that's really good. Thank you so much, Doc. I've actually enjoyed this so much. Like, I've really enjoyed it, and
You're welcome.
I hope that we'll get to do this again. Because there are some few things that I may still want to ask you, but because of time and all of that. So thanks so much, and I wish you the best. I wish your family the best. And we haven't seen each other in some years, right? In Sarai.
Yeah,
so
I think the last time we met was 2019 when you were in Ghana.
2019. Yeah, okay, yeah, 2019 when I came to Ghana. Yeah, I saw you guys. Yeah.